picture here of these oranges. I have the original orange painting or photo here. And I could do a filter on that. So I'll turn this into, I'm actually going to, I'll turn this into, I'll duplicate that and put it on the top just so I can compare in a minute. I'm gonna turn this into a smart object because I don't wanna just, if I just go to filter and go to filter gallery and say, I want it to, well, it gave it a filter of pixels here that I didn't want, but, or a mosaic. It's destructive editing, right? So what do I do for that? I can right click or click on the pull down menu here. I'm going to turn this into a smart object. So this original, it's now a smart object. You see the smart object icon there. So now when I go to the filter gallery, I'll go to filter and then filter gallery here. And I can choose, and it just did the stained glass one. But don't just do the default whatever you see. Play with these settings here. See what happens when and stained glass one, by the way, it's too canned looking. Don't ever use that one. It's not that great, but there's a whole bunch in here. Look at these. Some are really fun. There's plastic wrap. That's a fun one. Makes it look like, I don't know, slimy or something. But I'm going to go to paint daubs. What's that one look like? Or maybe palette knife is a nice one. I could go to like a posterize, would work as well. But I like what palette knife does. I can, again, I've got stroke size at 25. What happens if I make it smaller? You'll see I've got a lot more detail. There's a little bit of a lag. If I go, all the way to 50, you'll see it's much more graphic, and I'm gonna lose all the detail on my orange there. So I wouldn't want to go that much, but this is not a bad place to start. So that's the stroke size. I've got stroke detail. It goes up to 3. If I take it down to 1, it's very pixely looking. So play with these. Don't just don't go with the default. Softness is at 0. If I go softness to 10, you'll see it's going to lose, again, detail. So I'm going to keep that at 0. And that's palette knife. But play with them all. Spend some time clicking on things, moving the controls around, see what you get. So I'm going to go palette knife at that setting. And it's a smart filter right here. See that? I can turn it off. I'm back to my regular painting. I can turn it on. You don't have to use a filter. But if you do use a filter, it's a good starting place for a painting. And then I've got blank layers here. I have a folder called painting. I'm going to color my layer group here. I'll right click and I'll say, okay, my painting layer is going to be all orange. And so you see I've got 3 layers here. I've got the orange, I've got the leaves, and I'm going to start on these leaves here. And so I'll get the mixer brush. It's right here in my palette. I'm going to hide my zoom. It's in my way. So I go to the brush palette. There's a pencil, a color replacement, mixer brush tool. I'm going to use the mixer brush tool. And here is, before I go to anywhere else, look at my workspace. I'm in Essentials. And look, hey, there's a painting workspace. So I'm going to go to that and see what I get. And you'll see what it does. It gives me my swatches. Still have the history palette. I have brush settings right here. And we'll spend more time in brush settings when I teach a lecture on brushes. You can change the angle. You can make them squishy or rotate the angle. There's a whole bunch of brushes. We've already talked about loading brushes. So that's the brush settings. Then we have, I'll close that. And I'm gonna hit, I'm in the mixer brush. And I also have, look up here on the top, I've got my brushes here, and there's some brush settings as well, that same rotation, and I can make it more elliptical or more round. I'm not going to change that. I can change the size here, just like before. I'm in wet media brushes, Kyle's Real Oils here, but it could just as well be a soft brush. There's a whole bunch of brushes, special effects brushes. There's dry media brushes. So I'm in Kyle's wet brush there. And I noticed my brush looks like a crosshair here. That always means my cap locks is on. If cap locks is off, then I have that. So I can come, I'm on my layer here called leaves. I'm going to pull my layers up so you can see them. I'm on this leaves layer, and I'm going to start dragging. Nothing's happening. Why? I haven't checked sample all layers. So I'm going to check sample all layers because I'm going to paint on a blank layer. And here's load brush. If I load brush, you see it loads green. Why? Because I have green there. I have in my color picker palettes, there's green. If I click CMYK, those are all swatches, or I can eyedrop. If I click the letter I, go to the eyedropper, you see my color's orange now. And so if with the mixer brush, if I have load checked, it will always load with that. I'm going to unload it, and I'm going to have clean brush turned on. Then I'll go with just a moist setting here. And I'm going to zoom in on that brush, on that leaf, and start just dragging those colors there. And so it might be a good idea. Oops, look what happened. I went beyond my leaf, and I don't really want to do that. So I can go to my original drawing. I'll get the Smart Fill, the Quick Select tool right here. I'll select that leaf. So I've got marching ants on that leaf, and maybe I'll select the rest of the leaves as well, and the stem. So use all of the knowledge that you've gained in Photoshop up to this point in, whoops, I got some of that. So I'm getting more of that branch, and there we go. That was a little longer than I wanted, but I've got a selection there. I could on my leaves layer here, make a layer mask now, or I could just paint with the marching ants. I'll go ahead and make a layer mask. So you see I have a layer mask here. Now I don't really have to worry at all about painting within that space. I can just drag and drag right off the edge of the page, and it's not going to matter because I have a mask. And then if I'm getting a little halo here that I'm not really loving, I can always come in and paint on that mask as well. So I'm just dragging and dragging. This would be a little easier with a tablet, but it's, you know, I worked for many years with just a mouse before tablets really became a big thing. So, but I love working with tablets when I'm painting. So you see just a little bit of dragging there, and I'm dragging with the contour. The leaves have I didn't like that one, I'll hit undo. The leaves have a contour, so I'm going to drag through those. I don't want to see anything that looks like, see this stuff right here, these little shapes. That's very much, and this kind of stuff, that reads filter really quick to me. And so I don't like to see stuff like that. Again, so I'm going to paint over all of that. Left bracket will make my brush smaller. And I could switch to other brushes, but I think I'm going to get pretty good effects with this brush. So this kind of, you know, I've got some nice strokes, but these kind of jaggy artifacts like that, that really just smacks of, this is digital, this is a filter, this area right here. So I want to get rid of all that stuff. I like that dark there, so I'll just streak over that. But I'm going to try to get rid of all of those kind of jaggy, pixelated stuff, because they just don't look good. It doesn't look like natural painting. And I'm just making sure I paint with the angle that, if I'm doing like somebody's cheek, I'm thinking, what's the form of that cheek? And I'll paint around it. I know what the form of the leaf is, so I'm going to go through that. And this is, I've got a small brush, and that's going to be great for this stem here. So I'm going to drag through that, get a nice on that stem. And maybe I go, I'm going to make a big one and go quicker through that. So I'm going to go through that stem, couple of drags through that. I hold when I'm painting, I'm always hovering over the space bar to move around. I'm hovering over the right bracket to zoom up, the left bracket to zoom down. I use key commands. Even if I'm using a tablet, I'm still using my key commands all the time to zoom in, to zoom out. But I really like working, so see right here, again, looking at this area, this will not get me any points in our painting assignment. Why? Because it's very much a filter. So I'm gonna go with the contour of the leaf and get rid of all those nasty pixelated. Obviously this is a filter, not a painting sort of thing. So I'm zoomed in pretty big to see that. I like this yellow highlight around the edge. I'm gonna pull that into the leaf a little bit. That's pretty. I've got a jaggy edge here because what's my mask doing? Well, it's fairly jaggy. So I could come in and I might get a soft brush and paint over that. I would need to not be in a mixer brush though. Go to a regular brush and paint over that area a little bit. Maybe I would want a little harder brush. I don't know. So I'm painting on my mask, and what's that gonna do? Back to my mask. Okay, and then back to my mixer brush here and come in and on this layer. So I'm gonna turn my layer off right now, and you can see what I've painted. Just these areas on my leaf, and you see all these areas where it's clear. Those areas there don't look good. They look just like daubs of paint, basically, from the palette knife. So I'm gonna just get rid of all of that stuff. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like a painting. And I'm doing strokes that I feel like will contour. Let me paint back in that area. I wish maybe I had some more green in some areas. I'll come back in. If I want, I can eyedrop and select color. But all these areas that I don't have any painting on need some painting. So I'm gonna go into those areas and clean up those daubs. And that's not looking bad. I get some more green in there. Maybe I think these, what if I decide I want some yellow in there? I could eyedrop, sample some yellow here. I'll go back to, I can just go to a regular brush and paint some yellow in if I want. or I could go to the mixer brush again, and I'll say load brush. So I've got that yellow paint color. I could come in and paint some yellow in there, and then it's going to clean now. So then I could just smudge the green into the yellow and do a little bit of mixing on the canvas. I'll get a bigger brush to do that. And so it was too yellow to begin with, but as I smudge it around and mix it, okay, now I've got some nicer color there. And so don't be afraid to switch between the mixer brush to the regular brush and paint away. But again, I've got too much white here, I think, and I may come in and add some more yellow to it. So I'll go to a smaller brush here and paint on this. And by working with a mask, it's really helping me to not have to worry about painting outside the lines. I can actually be a little sloppy in my painting. Oh, look what happens here. I'm painting orange up into it. I do have to watch that because it's grabbing the orange from here. And that's not bad looking. I'll grab and paint this guy a little bit as well. Okay, that's fun. And there's my leaf painted. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll go to my, I'll hit save because my heartbeat. I'm going to go to my orange here. I'm going to paint this orange. So what I'll do again, I'll get the quick selection tool. I'll select this orange on the, I'll go to the original painting layer, select this orange. I don't want this area. So there I have a somewhat decent selection of the orange. I'll come to my orange layer, mask it. Now when I come into that layer with the mixer brush, then I won't want to lose all these details, but I'm going to make some big brush strokes at first. Here I like these darks, and I'm thinking about the contour of the orange and making sure I have sample all layers. And I'm going to, it's not really showing much, but you can see on my layer here that I am painting on that. Oh, maybe I'll go a little bit wetter with that. I'm going to go to very wet. Let's see what happens. This gives me a 50% load. And then as I'm like, man, I'm painting and painting, nothing's happening. And that was lame of me. Look right here. My original layer turned on. Okay. So I'm scribbling all over here and I'm going, what's going on? I don't see anything. It's because I had turned my original layer on to make that mask, and then I turned it off. So now I've got all this mess here. So I'll just delete that. Now I'm in this layer and I've got the filter, and I'm going to drag, paint. And the nice thing, if I was using a tablet, I could change the angle of this easily. I'm going to drag some of that dark up into this area here, and then I'll drag the light back down into the dark to mix on the orange itself. And see, now I can drag back down in. If I want to, mix a little bit, I can scrub it. If I want to not clean after every stroke, you'll see what's happening. I'm getting a color here. Also, at any point, I can hold Option, and that's going to give me the eyedropper, and I can click, and you'll see it will load with that color. I'm going to go ahead and clean the brush though. And so I'm going to not do that. I'm just going to I'm going to go to not clean the palette, and you'll see what happens as I mix. It's getting turning to more the it's not loading, it's not cleaning. So see, as I drag in here, it's still keeping this light color. I'm going to undo that. If I clean the brush after every stroke back on, now I'm pulling down here. As I come up here, see that light color doesn't drag in here because the brush is cleaning. So it's really important to understand these two. Fill after every stroke, which you don't really need to do if you're painting over a photo because the photo already has the color for you. And then I'm gonna turn my mix way down here because it's, you see what that does? And now I'm gonna turn my mix way up here, and let's see what that does. And you'll see when I change any of these settings, it goes to custom. So that's my load. My wetness here, that's how much it will, how wet the paint is. My mix, I'll turn that way high, and you'll see it really mixes that paint up as I drag it. And this is really hard. I will want to soften that up. I'm going to drag down here again. I don't have to worry too much about the edges, and I can drag back. And I don't have to worry about dragging into this leaf here. I would have to worry about dragging from the leaf. See that? It drags green in. I don't have to worry about dragging into the leaf. Why? Because the leaf's above it, and I'm working with layer mask, so I can get rid of that halo I wasn't really liking. I still don't like the jagginess of that. I will come in and clean that up. And then that's where I'd already worked on the mask a little bit. You can see it's not in this area. So getting some pretty colors. I'll come in here, it's cleaning. I'm gonna make a bigger brush here and play with the white a little bit. And then that's really harsh. I can come in and also, here's a blur tool. I could use other non-painting tools as well. And I always turn blur right up off the bat to 100%. And then I can come in and smudge that, and that's going to be super slow to go that way. So, but there's also a smudge tool here, and you'll see that's going to smudge the colors up and down, kind of. And the smudge tool existed a long time before the mixer brush tool. If I play with the smudge tool, you'll see, oh, that kind of acts like the mixer brush tool. Probably because they took, I'm guessing, I don't know, I didn't program Photoshop, but I'm guessing that they took some of the info that they used on the smudge tool here and used it in the mixer brush. But you can see that's still a brush. Right bracket still makes it bigger. Left bracket makes it smaller. And so the smudge tool might work as well for you. And then you can also use your regular brush. And I'm going to sample this lighter color here. I drop on that. I'll make a big brush. And maybe I'll come in and knock my opacity down. I think I'm going to paint just some of this orange here over this area, soften that area up as well. So you can do a combination of tools to paint. And that was too much. I didn't want to totally get rid of that, but I wanted to soften that a little bit. So There's my orange. I'm going to turn my painting off. You see there's all the area that's painted on the orange. And there's what that orange looks like. So then I've got another orange. This one here's a fun one. I would do the same thing again. This is the last one. I probably won't finish it, but I'm going to hit W, which gives me the quick selection tool. Select this orange here. And I'm going to not worry about the rind part of it right now. They call it a rind, the peel on the outside. I'm just going to paint this inside for now. Make a mask. Get my mixer brush. And then come in. I'm going to change brushes. And I'll just go to a general brush. And one like this, I can't, if you're like me, I go, oh, a soft round pressure size. Well, that's not going to help me because I'm not using a tablet. And so that some of these brushes have presets that when you use it, oh, it's not acting the way I want. Well, that's because it has a preset to, you know, these ones all that say pressure on them, they don't really work without a tablet. So this is a very soft brush. I'll go about midway on the hardness, and then I'm in the mixer brush. Then I accidentally hit a key command. I was trying to hit left bracket to go smaller. I got another one. And I'm just going to come in and start. I'll do these segments here because I want to retain them. I'll get this outer edge. And then I'll come in and mix these areas. And maybe I decide, you know, I could say, you know what? I decided I don't like the filter, what it's doing on this one. Actually, I don't have a problem with it. But if that were the case, I could come in with a regular brush, and on my smart filter, I could come in and paint black with a regular brush at full opacity. I could say, okay, on my filter, I'm going to paint out that filter I had because I like these bright colors I'm getting with the regular orange that seem to go away. So see that there's my layer mask here, and I'm painting that orange away. Now I'm back to that regular non-filtered brush. I'll come back to my painting layer here, and then I'll come back in, and I'm gonna be a little bit careful and not drag. I don't want to just drag and drag and drag like that because I want to retain these highlights. That's what makes this look juicy. So I'm doing just little short drags on this guy, but I want to paint over it. I don't want it to look like a photo. I want it to look like a painting, and I'm just using a regular soft brush, and I'm playing with the size on it here. And I'm just kind of doing a little bit of smudging. If I wanted to come back in, maybe I find, oh, I smudged too much, and I got rid of a highlight there that I wanted to have. See that? I'm wishing there were, you know, that highlight back. Well, I can always come back in and get, you know, eyedrop on some white, and then come in and go to my regular brush and say, okay, I wanted some white in there. And so I can do that. So that's basically it with the mixer brush. I'm not going to bore you too long with, I'm having fun. So oh, here's one more thing. I'm seeing some ugly things right here. avoid this at all costs. See this kind of staccato, like machine gun, tat, 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 tat. That's what happens when you get a textured brush and you drag it. You get that kind of stuff. So be careful with that sort of stuff. Some brushes are, particularly a lot of the like grunge brushes and stuff like that are more for like a stamp use than a drag use. But then again, the presets in the brushes that we'll spend more time in the coming couple of weeks on, they will, you can set how those respond to dragging versus, you know, the frequency and the repetition. But avoid that kind of staggered stutter in your brush, because it looks, that's a real telltale. This is digital paintbrush, and we want to avoid that kind of stuff at all costs. It just doesn't look good. It looks amateurish, and not very natural in the painting. So really, I'm just kind of getting rid of pixels. I want to retain on this orange a lot of these highlights, but I don't want it to look like a photo. And so I'm doing a lot of individual areas, little click and move around and click. So I don't know if you can hear my mouse clicking, but I'm clicking, click and drag a little bit, click and drag a little bit, because I'm trying to retain colors. I'm just trying to soften. I'm trying to smudge a little bit, trying to get some paint strokes. And this is just a regular soft brush. Again, if I go to a, you know, another brush, I can get strokes like that. If I want to turn the brush, I can turn it. You see what's happening there? So that's where I am right now. I'm just in the brush settings, and you see my stroke here. That's going to be more in keeping with the direction I want to go here. So that's a handy thing to do. I'll turn it again. And that would be natural if I was on a tablet. I wouldn't have to come here and change it every time like that. So if you want to be serious about painting, I would invest in a Wacom tablet. It's going to be a good investment. Sometimes you can get them on collegebuys.org, pretty cheap. But that's pretty fun. That's painterly looking. There's the cheapest one is the Bamboo, and it has very little pressure sensitivity and doesn't have, I don't think, any tilt sensitivity. And then there's the it's over on my other table, my Intuos. They're the top of the line, and they have like you know, 1,000 sensitivity and tilt sensitivity settings. So I'm going to stop right there. Here's what my orange painting is right here. And so just looking at that, it doesn't look so great right now, but you can see it starting to take effect. I think it's really handy on this brush and what I'm painting to change the angle of that brush periodically. But this is starting to look like a painting a little bit more. And it's fun. So have fun with this. I think that's your main requirement that I really want. You know, if you guys are naturally already painters and illustrators, well, that it's going to come easy. But some of you might be intimidated by painting because you're a photographer, you're not a painter, or you're neither, and that's intimidating. But you can see the drawing's already done for you. The photo supplied that. And it doesn't take much smudging around before you've got a lot of painting. And I would just keep going. Maybe I'll keep playing with this one because I'm having fun with it. I would probably come back in now on this one and go, oh, I really want to have some whites. So I'll eyedrop. I'll just hold Option here, and I drop on some white, and then I'd probably come back in on this orange here. I'm missing some of those white bumps, and I'll tell it to load after every stroke, and then I can get some more. I'd probably come in with a regular brush and paint in some more of that detail, because I think I lost too much detail. Anyway, that's a down and dirty quick demo on mixer brush and painting in general in Photoshop. From a photo, you can turn it on, turn it off. You can have your original, if you're working from a painting, have your original on the top as well. So I can turn it off